Good evening, Central Indiana, and welcome to Porch Time with your host, me, live from JTH Construction Studio. It is a Wednesday, am I correct? Is it Wednesday?
I thought it was Tuesday all day. I even texted Saw.
You know what? I just realized
about bringing it tomorrow, and she's like, "Today, I'll see you at 5." I'm like, "Yep,
I
you're right."
inadvertently did not put a camera on myself, so that's a blessing.
Oh, why?
And you missed that.
Oh,
You
I did miss that.
got away with that with the boss here. So, joining us in studio tonight, as you can tell, is the Purdue University PCE Group. They're in here to update us on some information and to also go over some of the things they have planned in the days ahead. And I'm gonna let Bethany introduce the entire group because she enjoys doing that so much. So, thank you, Bethany.
Well, let's see if I can go around the circle on the screen here. What would that be? To my left, I guess, is Dr. Sa Liu from Purdue. Down below her, we have Stephanie Wessler and Kathy Thorpe of Martinsville. Stephanie is a teacher at Smith. That's right. And then to Stephanie's right.
That's right. You got it right, Stephanie.
And then to Stephanie's right would be Bryce. And Bryce, you're going to have to tell us, because I guess.
Bryce Gustafson, program organizer with Citizens Action Call.
Okay. You might as well first too, because I'm sure all the right wording. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I'm Tom Wallace. I'm the co-investigator with Dr. Sa Liu, Purdue PCE Study for Martinsville. And tonight we're looking at an update on our program here that's been going on for several months. Been doing a study looking at low-level long-term exposure PCE to children in Martinsville, ages 6 to 11. Encompasses a neurological and behavioral study based on iPad and breath test. We're getting ready to do the breath test part 10th to the 15th. All the participants that have signed up and enrolled so far. Initially, we looked at having 110 children in the program. We have 67 enrolled, 50 that have completed the program. We need about another 60 students here in town from ages 6 to 11 to participate in the program. The part we're getting ready to do now on the 10th to the 15th, taking Excel breath test on children to see if there is and how much PCE might be with the system. Previously, on our initial programs a year ago, when we did breath tests in Martinsville, every person whose breath we tested came back with a measurable amount of PCE in their system. So it's fairly certain that if you're living in Martinsville, you will have a measurable amount of PCE in the system. So we're going to be looking at the children's next week on the 10th to the 15th. So if there are families out there that have not yet enrolled in the program, please do. You can get the information here at Porch Time. We have several groups on Facebook and our website. So send in a question. We can give you the links to everything. Then we have 2 other grants coming up, a National Institute of Health grant, which will expand the program that we're currently doing with children to all adults. And we will be looking at 350 people in Martinsville to enroll in that. And again, it will be looking at breath tests and a comprehensive cancer survey and study. As we all know, everyone in town probably has had some run-in with cancer, either personally or in the family or friends. So Martinsville does have a higher rate of cancer than other places in the state. So we're looking at more of a comprehensive study to see what the actual rate is and the types of cancer, and if there's anything unique about Martinsville and what we're looking at in cancer. So that is coming up.
Go ahead. Another point? No, go ahead.
Were there any questions there?
Yeah, but go ahead. We'll let you finish first.
Okay, and then that program should start next year. Again, that'll be 350 people we're looking for, and that would be adults. So what we're doing on children now will be expanding throughout the entire community on adults. And we have another program on water well testing, where, as some of you know, the city recently passed a environmental restrictive ordinance on private water wells. where you may have to, if you do use a private water well, you may have to close that down and hook up the city water. So we have been testing private water wells in town to see what is the extent of contamination. And we test for bacteria and coliform, total, metals, volatile organics, and paths. So it's a rather comprehensive survey that we're doing on water well test. So if you do have a private well within any of the plume areas or in Martinsville, get a hold of us too to see if you would qualify for well testing. And if you do have a contaminated well and you are within any of the 4 plumes in town, they do have to pay to have you hooked up. So that cost is.
Anything else?
Well, one more small thing.
And then we'll break all this down after. He's just kind of trying to give us an intro here, and we'll break everything down here in just a little bit.
Our partnership with Purdue, we were accepted into the National Institute of Health Community-Based Participatory Research Academy, which is a 1-year program, and they select 12 communities from across the country. So we are one of the 12 communities that were selected from across the country, and we're the only community that represents small-town rural America. All the other cohorts in there were metropolitan cities. So we're very unique where we are right now. And we do have a small grant from them that I was planning on using to develop a training program for high school students to what is field testing, what is environmental testing, to engage the high school students in this, maybe assist us in our future tests.
Okay. Whew.
That's a lot.
Is that all that you wanted?
That's enough for now.
What about the EPA?
Oh, EPA?
Yeah.
Okay. Some of you know, last week the EPA was here for 3 days. The Superfund site, which is why we have the contaminated water and our well systems were contaminated. They finally came out with a ROTA decision on remediation and cleanup of this site, January of this year. It will start in 2023, and it's projected to take 17 years to do the cleanup. Wow. Part of that, however, is vapor intrusion in the houses that might be affected by the Superfund site. And they have identified 200 properties that they sent cards out to, asking for permission to test your house for vapor intrusion. So if you do get a card, respond to it, sign the access agreements, let them come in and test your house. If you exceed a threshold and you need a mitigation system, they will pay for that. Now, this is a mitigation system depending on the size of the property, whether you have a subslab, a basement, whether it's concrete or whether it's dirt. Price can vary a lot, but generally it's $6,000 to $30,000 to fit in one of these systems, and all that cost is covered by the EPA, which could be a very nice value-added feature to your real estate. So if you do get a card, get a hold of them and make sure you do that.
Okay. All right. So we do have one question already. What is PCE?
Yeah, well, a good term for PCE for a layperson like us who just lives in the community, PCE is just basically a toxic chemical. That's what they keep talking about, PCE. It's got a great big long word that I can never repeat, but that's how I understand it.
Polyethyl chlorine. I don't know.
Yeah.
Who wants to say it?
Yeah, PCE is a tetrachloroethylene, and it is a organic chemical and widely used as a solvent, and most well known is used for dry cleaning. And that's how the Superfund site got contaminated 20 years ago to start with. And also this chemical tetrachloroethylene, PCE, also because it's very good at cleaning stuff, it also used to clean metals for metal degreasing. That's how some industry operations in this town potentially contaminated several areas in Martinsville because of using this chemical as a metal degreasing agent.
Eddie, it's PCE. Oh yeah, good. You got that in there already. Sorry, Kevin. It
I'm
came
quiet,
through.
but
Came through a little slow.
I'm on top
my
of
end.
things.
Eddie says switch to simple green, folks. Right. So this, I don't know who out there might not know about the plumes in Martinsville, but there are 4 known plumes, which are underground contaminated areas within the city of Martinsville.
I have a couple questions on that.
Okay.
The one main plume that you're talking about that the Superfund site runs from the corner of Wayne and Jackson to the Ball Diamonds, pretty much, running northwest from the corner there. And that's the one that they feel that was contaminated with the dry cleaning place. That's not the only plume we have. We have a plume on Morgan Street.
That one's also dry cleaning, right?
As far as I know.
The O'Neill plume.
And then one on the from South Street running due west. And then where was the fourth one? Or was that it?
There's one a little lower than that. So like
Both.
Poston Road area.
So block or two from
Yes.
each other.
Yeah.
My question. Wilcox Engineering handled the one on Morgan Street, correct?
Is currently handling.
And they're
Yes.
almost done.
About a year and a half out.
So why did we opt to go with a 17-year period for the rest of these
Well, we didn't.
when we could have had this done in less than 5 years?
Yeah.
I mean, that's baffling.
That would
I
be
mean-
an EPA decision.
But I mean, there's people that this could be generational deaths in a family directly related to
Right.
plumes in this city.
Right.
And instead of getting it done in 5 years, we're going to stretch it out at 17, which would cause more deaths.
Right.
That makes no damn sense to me
Right.
at all.
So our city is very lucky to have to have Saw Lou to care so much about this community
Right. I mean,
and to have Tom.
she doesn't even live here,
Right.
and she's
Right.
tip of the spear.
Right. So, and Tom and Debbie and Bryce is here from Indy. So these research projects that they're coordinating and doing, the results that they're getting or that they're going to get, they hope to maybe kind of be able to nudge the EPA, and maybe we can get them to change their decision at some point, maybe.
Well, on the EPA side, I went over this again last week when they were here. The remediation system that Wilcox is using has been in existence only about 15 years. Been proven to be highly effective. If you go to Wilcox's, and the product they use, Plume Stop, is a proprietary product from a company called Regenesis. And if you go on their website, you'll see they have at least 40 projects on their website that shows how effective this is all over. And I think there were 118 usages in Indiana. And what is interesting is that Franklin, when they had the emergency cleanup over there, it was mandated by the EPA. But at that site, they did use Plume Stop on that one. But here on ours, but that was done under an environmental justice coordination and not through a standard remediation like our site is. But generally, they do not accept Plume Stop because it is still considered a new technology. They don't know if there are any longer term effects longer than 15 years. So they are not using that for that one reason. And we did go back to them, the city, when the RADA decision was being worked on, and Dr. Tim Adams, who was working with the city to review everything. We went back and forth with EPA about that. So that has been addressed as much as we possibly could.
Sure. No, it was ultimately their call. I
Their
get
call.
that. But it still makes, I mean, I'm not a scientist and I'm not a plume guy, but 5 years, 17 years, you know what I mean? And we're dealing with people's lives.
Especially when it's already been going on for such a long time.
Right. 15 to 20 years.
It's
Anyway.
been going on for longer than that. Remember the cleaner downtown, which they say was the main contributor to this, opened in 1987
Right.
and was only there until 1991. That was only 3 years.
Right.
So it's been, well over 30 years that it's been here, and that was not the only source. If you look at the plumes, you see that where that dry cleaner is, the blue area, which is the highest concentration, but southeast of that, you'll see it's ended that way, which indicates there were 2 other sources further south, which we know were also dry cleaners. So, yeah, there's a lot of variance on plumes and how you want to address it yet.
I didn't mean to get off on that, but it just bugs me every time that comes up.
But it's going to continue to come up.
Yeah.
This is the one thing that you have to keep going back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin, there are something I can add on, and the EPA made this decision also based on the status, which is the drinking water has been treated, and I know lots of people do not even drink municipal water. However, the water is treated, and the level of toxic chemical in the water is very low. And also, there is a vapor intrusion situation, and EPA has been trying to address this vapor intrusion. That's why EPA has been here last week for several days and trying to get people sign up.
But I mean, you're basically going to have to fight the vapor intrusion situation for the next 17 years.
So if we could explain just a little bit real quick, some people may not understand what vapor intrusion is. So as a lot of us hear, we hear people say
it's very similar to what radon is, and that's something that's very common in this community, in this part of the country. And anybody in real estate knows that you dig the ground and you start disturbing the soil, you want to do a radon test in a basement or a crawl space of homes in central Indiana. And the vapor intrusion is from the contamination in the ground soil underneath. Eventually it rises to the top and settle inside your house, your garage, wherever. And it's a simple test. From what I understand, they can come in and check the air, and then it's a simple fix like a radon system where they put it in your house and they're going to funnel the air out and above the level of your house.
So if you have a dirt basement or a cracked concrete basement, you could be getting toxic chemicals coming up into your home
from the contamination.
And so then you are breathing that low level contamination while you're home all the time. So a lot of people say don't drink the water, but like Dr. Lou just said, like Saw just said,
changed your name and sentence.
Our Martinsville water. Stop it, Kevin. The Martinsville water is treated. It goes through some pretty expensive carbon filters, brings those levels down to where to where it becomes able to be, drinkable.
Maybe then it leads to the next thing, the vapor intrusion in the air, and then it gets in your lungs, and gets in your body.
Right. So
and you don't smell it or taste it.
Right. So that's where the real risk is for the people that live in the plume areas is vapor intrusion. So that's why that's why the EPA needs to get homes tested in the Superfund site. And
that's why we are also testing kids and to see the exposure level and the prevalence among children.
Now, are they only testing homes, the EPA? Are they only testing homes in the actual Superfund site?
Yes.
Which is the contamination from Jackson and Wayne all the way to the Ball Diamonds.
Yes.
So, Indy, if you're in that plume, they'll test your house, but it's not citywide.
Correct.
And we are testing children citywide.
You are testing children citywide.
Not the EPA, but the
You guys are.
research, right? The task force team.
So we hope we generate data that can be complementary to the data EPA is collecting and to contribute data to the country understanding of the whole issue in the entire city, not only limited in certain area.
Beth?
Sorry, I was just checking a question.
What is a specific question regarding, okay.
Yeah.
Judy Miller wants to know, what about rural areas of Martinsville?
Not sure what she's asking though.
This normally comes up when we do the show. They want to know, are you testing outside the city limits? Are there plumes outside the city limits? Not that you're aware of, but they haven't been looked into because this has been focused from the main plume on. Right. And then if you live outside the city limits and you're on a well, I'd get the water tested anyway, regardless of whether you're in a plume or not.
You get the what?
I'd get my water tested anyway.
Actually, children and the water testing all beyond the city limit.
Well, just one quick thing going back to vapor intrusion testing. If you also are living within the plume area of the other three sites, the O'Neill, the Twiggs, and the Harmon Becker, you can also get vapor intrusion if you're in that area, and they have to pay. So if you were in either one of those plumes, contact the project engineer, call the city and say, I'm in this plume, who do I contact to get my house tested? So they are mandated to have to test it and put a vapor intrusion.
Tom, who'd you say would have to pay for that?
No, they do.
Oh, the homeowner?
No.
No. If you're within the plume area,
Okay.
the responsible party pays for that.
So that would be the EPA if it's a Superfund site, or the
It would be
Oh,
Twiggs,
yeah.
Harmonbeck, or O'Neill. If you're within
would
the
pay in those other
footprint of the
three. Okay.
plumes, they
Yeah.
cover the cost.
I didn't know they
Yeah.
had pinpointed it down that far
Yeah.
Yeah.
to give them. Okay.
Yeah.
So the homeowner doesn't have to, or the homeowner doesn't have to pay for it, but the company responsible for the situation.
And the city also, on that environmental restrictive ordinance that came out, if there is a private water well within any of those footprints, the responsible party has to pay for it. So if you have a private water well that's in the Twiggs footprint and it's contaminated, have to be hooked up to city water, they would have to pay.
Right. Okay, so should we talk about Showalter first? First. So we have an ongoing research project that we're doing right now. It started beginning of summer, and we are trying to find 110 children. We'd like half to live in a plume area and half to live outside of a plume area. Simple tests that we're doing with the children, an exhaled breath test, which we are actually getting ready to do some exhaled breath testing next week, and then also just an iPad assessment. Super simple. But then again, next year, we're looking at gathering another exhaled breath test from those same children. And in the end, after the end of next week, we are compensating the kids, giving them a little treat. They're going to receive $25 at the end of their second test next week. And then also, there's another gift next year. Next year, right? When are we going to do that one? March?
Depending on how soon we get to 110.
Oh,
Yeah.
What's
we gotta
the
get to
age limit? What's the
110,
age limit
guys.
again? I'm just asking.
6 to 11.
Rats.
But they need to have lived in Martinsville for 4 years,
School district.
Go to
in the school district for 4 years.
That's right. And just in case you haven't heard or you're just now tuning in, we are looking for children ages 6 through 11 to participate in the study that the Purdue people are doing. And it just basically tests neurological and behavioral issues, quite possible issues. And it's a simple breath test. I've actually done the breath test myself, and it's very easy. It's like blowing into a straw and a simple iPad assessment. So if you'd like to sign your child up, you can just message Porch Time, or we do have a Facebook group called the Purdue-Martinsville PCE Study Group, and you can join that. Not only would you be able to sign up, but you could get some updated information. We try to update it with little tidbits of information that we get every once in a while. So go ahead and log on to that on our Facebook group and give us a like so that you could get more information as we get some information.
And the parent of the child with the testing, you're there in the same room with the child, so you can see they're over in one part of the room and doing the iPad test and so forth. And we have questions and stuff that you can answer over in the other corner. So it's not like your child's not away, not there. You can't see where they're at. They're right there, so you can observe exactly what's going on. So there's nothing invasive to them. They just blow in the tube. Some iPad.
I show this exhale breath test.
Yeah, we have a video that shows how the exhaled breath test is conducted. It's going to be a little tricky here. Saw has it on her laptop. We're going to try to get a camera on it. Is that Roy?
Not Roy.
No.
That's good right there where you had it.
Good here.
Oh, where? Need it raised?
Leave it, set it down on the table, and then Beth, you might want to crank the camera down or just tilt the camera down.
Okay, you'll have to tell me.
Perfect. Right
Perfect.
there. Yep.
Okay.
Excellent.
That's delayed, so it'll be okay.
Now, crank the volume up on that iPad if you would.
I think that
Volume up. You have to do it backwards. It's all the way up.
Yep. That's
you're good.
max. You might kind of lean your mic over there, Beth.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Brandon. I'm working on the Purdue Showalter Project. And today we're going to show you how to collect exhale breath. So we're going to use this mobile lab. Here is the mobile van, and the instrument is located inside this van. So how do we collect your breath? This is where the mouthpiece, chamber, connector, and tubing are connected. Children will blow their breath into the mouthpiece. That's going to collect the exhale breath of the child through this tubing. So first he's going to rinse his mouth with some water. Okay. So once that's done, we're going to use his mouthpiece. And what he's going to do is you're going to blow, you're going to breathe in through your nose for around 5 seconds. And then you're going to blow out through your mouth for just as long as you can. And if you can't breathe, then you can't blow out anymore. Okay. And now the instrument will be able to analyze the exhale breath sample.
Is that it? All right.
Yes.
Great. Hopefully you guys were able to see and hear that okay.
You want to readjust
So-
your camera?
Yeah. You have to tell me.
Perfect.
Perfect. Okay. So the instructions were that the child takes a drink of water and then just blows through the mouth, out the mouth into the tube for as long as he can. Correct?
Yes, yeah. So rinsing mouth is important because we may pick up some signals, whatever in the mouth, and we want to collect air from your deep in the lung. And that's why we want to deep breathe and breathe in and breathe out, keep blowing into the tubing. And the tubing is connected to the instrument. And the instrument is a real-time analyzer. And we can actually see the peaks. But those are the raw data. We cannot tell the actual value, but we can see the peaks. So it takes about 2 minutes to blow all the way through the instrument. We can capture signal, and then that's it.
So is it just one? You just blow out once, or will it be several times?
It will be several times because tubing is about 1 meter long.
Okay.
And it need go through the instrument. So the kid probably need blow into that for 1 to 2 minutes. So you can take breath in through your nose, but just keep blowing through the mouth into the tubing. Yeah.
Let's answer
Simple.
her question real quick because it is related to this. She lives in Sherman Estates. Amanda, Sherman is not in a plume that I'm aware of.
No.
But obviously she lives in the school district. So she can bring her kids, get her
Right.
kids tested.
She could.
If your kid has been in the MSD of Martinsville for 4 years, which if they're between 6 and 11, obviously they can't be there for 4 years. But if you have a child between those ages, and even if you're not in the plume area, we still are looking for children to test. So if you know one of us, you can just message one of us and we'll get you set up. We're looking for a lot more children to complete our study, so that'd be amazing. We have to get our community involved in this. Not only do we want them to know the information that's coming out, like exactly like what Amanda just asked, where are the plume areas? What is a plume? It's a toxic area that's actually on the EPA map website. It's on the EPA website, right? And so you can see where the toxic plumes actually are, because when I started, I didn't know anything about it. I've lived here, born and raised in Martinsville my entire life. I'd never even heard of any of this, any of the toxicity that comes, until I moved into town and someone asked if they could test my breath, even though I don't live in plume and I still have PCE in my breath. So that's when I got involved to be a task force member. Not only are we looking for more children ages 6 to 11 to be involved in our Showalter study that's going on right now, but we're also looking for other community members to join our group and be part of our task force, so that when we have like exhale breath testing or testing the wells, we always like to have a community member with the researchers that are coming from Purdue, so that maybe the people here can see a familiar face, or maybe if they use a lot of big words, and I teach first grade for a living, and I do it for a reason. So sometimes I can take the words and I can make it better understandable by people who are more like myself. But we do need a lot of other community members to help with all of these projects, and especially because not only do we have this one, but we have all the upcoming projects that are going on. This is going to be years worth of study, and we can take all of the information that we're getting and that we need to have that we don't have from this area and get it to the right people. And that's why Dr. Liu that mentioned earlier, we're so fortunate because she's very bright. She loves our community. She has a heart for us. And then, of course, Tom knows everything. He's like a walking encyclopedia of Martinsville. So, but I know a lot of you love our community too. Like, I don't ever plan on leaving my community. I love Martinsville, born and raised. My whole entire life, I live here, I teach here, it's where my children go to school, and I want it to be a healthy place, so if they choose when they're adults to come back and live in our community, it could be a possible safer place to live.
Very nice, Stephanie. Yeah. So, like she said, we're able to take some children who live outside of the plume areas, but we're getting close to that threshold. So there aren't a lot of spaces left for children who do not live in a plume area. But we need to find a lot of kids who live inside a plume area. So,
so even if you don't live in a plume area, but you know a child or someone that we are having a hard time kind of getting a hold of those families, the children we've gone by, we've door knocked, like specifically to talk to people face to face, but it's hard to catch people who are home or people who live in the plumes that do have children in those age ranges who are willing to participate.
That's right.
Judy's still asking. Judy, if
what's her question?
Getting her water tested. If you live outside the city limits, I used to know that some of the. Anybody got a name off the top of their head?
Did Judy say where she lives? Does she live
outside the city limits?
Outside.
Yeah, and she is on a well, so she. Could, I'm trying to think of some companies that you could send out their way to test her water.
Well, it all depends on what she wants to test for.
Right.
You can go, the county health board, they have a list, and you check them, and they periodically have information on that. There is a company in Monrovia that does bacteria and E. coli testing.
So a number of different things she could get tested in her well, but
Okay. Does anyone have any specific questions about the Showalter Project?
Green Township is what I'm guessing.
Precinct 2, maybe?
Green Township. Yeah.
Yeah, Township. Trying for Township there.
Yeah.
Gotcha, Judy. So like
There we
Tom
go.
said, you can get a hold of there she goes.
County Board of Health.
Yeah,
And
the
they'll have
Board of Health, and they can direct you on who to get a hold of.
Yeah, I believe they used to actually give out little bottles so you can take your sample yourself and bring it in. So
Yeah.
that happens periodically, but there is a lab in Monrovia that does bacteria and E. coli testing.
Okay.
This is not.
Correct.
Not-
She's
no,
not in
she's
the
outside
city
the
area.
city limits.
Oh,
She's by Green Township Elementary area. Over
She's
on
about
the
5 miles
east side.
east of here.
okay.
Yeah.
Do test wells in other projects, Johnson project, but
Still,
only,
that's within the city.
only
though.
within the city limits. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So, what project do you want to talk about next, Saw?
So the Excel breast testing, we are going to test Excel breast for 5 days, and we ask the current participating family to sign 2 slots, one on weekday and one on weekend. In that way we can test the children's the toxic chemical compounds in children's exhale breath, one on weekday, one on weekend, so we can see if going to school or staying home, their different activities have any effect on the level of chemicals in their exhale breath. We are still hoping more family can sign up to participate our study, so they can participate this exhale breath testing. And also, I'm shouting out for the families already be part of our study. So those we call our participating families. we've been sending out email notification and a text message to let families know to sign up their children for XL breast testing. And we have about 30 families sign up their children, but we still have maybe 10 or 15 families. They are part of our study, but have not signed up for XL breast testing yet. So if you know your friends, or if you are watching this, and check your email, check your text message, sign your child up for this XL breast testing.
Right. Right. So like you saw in the video, there was that the van. What do you call it?
Mobile lab.
The mobile lab. So that mobile lab is, well, it's very expensive to rent. And so what we've decided to do was to hopefully do all of the exhaled breath testing for all of the children that are currently signed up, all at one time, well, from the 10th to the 15th. So like Saw said, we need parents to sign their kids up for this test once during the week and once on the weekend. And so instead of bringing that truck back and forth, we're trying to get it all done in those amount of days. So we've had more than half of the people sign up their children for these tests that are already involved in the project, but we're still waiting on quite a few. Did you say 20? We're still waiting on at least probably 20 families or 20 children?
Yeah, close to 20, yeah.
So if you're watching, please go and get signed up for a couple time slots.
I have a question. We're talking about being in the school district. Have all the school buildings had vapor testing done inside them?
We only know one school located either on one of the plumes or very close on the edge of
Poston
Road Elementary School is located very close to Hammenbecker plume.
Well, Central is right at the edge of the one. I mean, literally, it starts right probably 30 feet from it at the corner there.
Right.
North School would have been.
Yeah.
If I don't know if it's still, they have still students there.
Head Start is at North, and then you do have a daycare and then a preschool at Central, along with all the school administration.
Have they tested the air in any of these facilities other than Poston?
We would love to work with schools and the school district to test one or two or all of the schools, because this is pretty important. If we test there is no vapor intrusion, air contamination, that's very good news. If we do find some signals, and the school and the related people can take some actions to address this issue. I would like to take this opportunity to say big thank you to the city and to the school district. They have been very helpful to us, and also thank you to Kevin. This is the third time we've been on Porch Time, and I was thinking about this today. We came here first time in April, and then we did the second time in July, and this is the third time. We have been here quarterly. And
well, and I think that I had Debbie and another gal on when we were downtown on a show. Yeah. So
Dr. Jennifer Johnson?
I don't think it was her. It may have been Teresa. Prior to you guys even forming the PCE group. I know who it was. It was Tasha.
Yeah.
Yes. It was Tasha.
And
I haven't heard from Tasha for a while.
That's the show I watched when I first started working with Tom. That show was introductory to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We also had Tim Adams. Dr. Adams.
Yeah, we did have Dr. Adams on.
Yeah, so
who's extremely knowledgeable.
We try to build closer, further collaboration with school. School has helped us distribute flyers and promotion material. We are really grateful. But if we can go into some school buildings, test buildings, either using our mobile lab, it can be pretty quick, and we can, because it's a real-time compared to EPA method use a canister that has to be set up
Set
there
it for
for
a
8
while.
hours.
Set the
And
radar.
yeah,
I think it would be beneficial, and it could give you guidance in a direction if your schools all come up negative. I mean, that's a win-win-win-win-win right there.
Right.
But then if you come up positive, then you can, okay, this is one source of contamination right here, and let's get this taken care of, and that's done. And that covers all the kids.
Not only children, but the MSD of Martinsville is the biggest employer in our community.
Right.
So
Has anybody reached out to the superintendent or anybody about?
Not the current administration, no.
Okay.
Well, one thing too, when we had the mobile lab here, the 10th through the 16th, the 10th through the 15th is for breath testing, but the following day, the 16th, we will be doing vapor intrusion testing of some houses in town. So we are looking for sites to test, houses to test, and we can drive the unit right up to your house, run a tube into it, and like Saw said, it's real time. You'll know right away what the results are. So we do have one full day where we can do vapor intrusion testing at houses here.
Now I'm going to play devil's advocate here because I know there's chemicals in everybody's garage that also creates something very similar to what you're looking for. Is there a level, scale of 1 to 10? Is it like anything above a 4? We're going to say, hey, that's not your household stuff. That's that plus.
Well, generally when they do them, they ask you to remove things to start with, so
Okay.
you can eliminate that ahead of time.
Right.
But there are a lot of things that would show, even if a Sharpie, a magic marker, you pull that off, you put it in front of it, you're going to get a hit.
Wow. Did not know that.
yeah, but we do that. That's a very good question. And based on literature search, and we check the other people measured in other communities, in cities, in other places, homes, not only for what's in the air, but also in people's exhale breaths. We do have some ideas. What could be the background level? What could be
Base
we
level,
call
right.
elevated?
Yeah.
So like EPA's action level for vapor intrusion in indoor environment for commercial is different for residential. For residential, for long-term effect, the level is 110. If you have 110 microgram per cubic meter above, that is the action level. ADAM, EPA, and people need to do something about that. That's for long-term. That's for intermediate term exposure. For long-term, it's 42. So remember those levels. One is 110 and one is 42. That's for indoor environment. And based on our measurement, we did, this is almost the third year we do our study in Martinsville. And we measured 40 people already. And my gut feeling is if we test someone's exhale breath and the level is below 4 or 5, it's more like to be background level. If we see anything between 4 and 10, I would call it elevated. If that's close to 30, you probably have some major exposure sources that need to be looked at. So we have a feeling about what is background, what is elevated.
Bryce wants to say something. Oh, spin it around the other way. There we go. You can lower it. Or yeah, there you go.
There we go. Yeah, and I just wanted to add, the truck's coming in pretty soon. We'll be knocking on some doors to remind folks about what's going on with the Showalter study, with the EPA testing, and the Robert Wood Johnson study as well, the water testing. So we did that before the EPA came this past week. Losing track of time, but we talked to some folks, and I'll just say that a lot of people knew at least about a little bit about what was going on, which is pretty amazing. Just to take a step back, I canvassed 10 years across the state with Citizens Action Coalition, so I talked to a lot of folks, and a lot of times people don't know what's happening in their community. It's really amazing to see the level of engagement and the level of knowledge, good work, all that are sitting at this table. But you know, regardless, a lot of this stuff sounds very kind of scary, to be honest. But just get this situation tested. That's the message. Not every single community, and there's a lot of communities across Indiana who have these issues. Not every single community is afforded the opportunity for this kind of mitigation. So
Right.
it's a very, very special kind of situation going on here in Martinsville, where every level of the government, you know, whether it's local, state, or federal, are kind of all pulling on the same side of the rope. So well done to everyone doing the work here. And I'm just here to help. So I hope I can fulfill that mission.
Is there a time period kind of where it's sort of you snooze, you lose? You know, if you don't take advantage of the opportunity to get your home tested, or you know what I'm saying? Could you?
Well, the EPA said December 1st will be the absolute cutoff for the home testing.
This December 1st?
Yeah.
So 1 month.
So yeah, we're gonna put together another little team to knock on some more doors, and
Okay.
we got what 50
50
folks.
responses.
So again, when we say the EPA, that is only that only is dealing with the Superfund site. So the plume there on the north side of the city that is over by the ball fields, and then what
From
you
Jackson
say?
Street to
East
Wayne,
to-
Jackson corner of Jackson and Wayne, and it runs northwest
Right.
in a diagonal from
Right.
there towards the ball diamonds.
So if you know someone that lives in that area, you need to have them get a hold of who? Who do they get a hold of?
We'll get hold of any of us. I have all the access form agreements. You can fill them out, give them back to us, and I scan them and send them straight to the EPA, or you can send them straight to the.
Okay. Okay. All right. The next stop.
Workshop?
Oh, sure. Okay.
Well, on December 4th, for our current participating families and our task force members, we're going to have a little workshop. And basically, during the workshop, we're going to give some updates of how things are going for us, and maybe have some little breakout sessions where we can learn more things about any of the information that people in our community, any of the participating families need to know. And we're going to have a little dinner. So I think it'll be a fun time. So if you are a participating family, thank you so much. If you're not a participating family, we would love to have you be one. So just go ahead and contact us on our Facebook page or Dr. Lou. And I think it's going to be a good time. We're going to have it at the First Baptist Church right by Smith Fine Arts Academy. And it's going to be from 4 to 7 in the evening. And I think it'd be a great time for us to learn even more information. And like me, like I don't know much, or if I do hear information, sometimes I don't quite understand it. So this will be a good time to help people gather some more understanding of what's going on in our community as well.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
But the best part about that is afterwards we're going to have a dinner.
That's right. Free food.
So
Yeah,
Kevin
free
will
food.
probably be there.
Yeah, maybe.
that's right.
And so there'll be breakout sections so everyone can communicate and you know, get one-on-one with everybody. So it should be a really fun evening.
Right.
Also going back to real quick to the EPA access forms on Facebook, we have our group, the Martinsville, Indiana Superfund Site Association. All the forms are on there. So you can just go there and download them yourself too.
Okay.
I have a question. I have another question here.
Good.
You may not like this one.
Uh-oh.
Has anybody knocked on all the doors of the businesses on the square? And she said churches. There's quite a few churches that fall within the plumes to do vapor intrusion testing. I mean, I would think those places like that would be. I know that they're doing the houses, but I mean, let's face it. Anybody that works anymore, you're at your work more than you are your home. Majority of the time, you know what I mean. And the businesses downtown, I would assume, would be the first place that we would want to check all of them. Because but downtown basically is all in the same plume.
Yeah, all the downtown's in the Superfund site.
Right.
And the EPA, when they send out notices, they did it by location, they
Mhm.
did it by building, so that the owners should have gotten the card
Okay.
for that. I know a couple of churches there have. So, but if you are any place in that Superfund site, which is virtually all the downtown, up to the ball fields, down to Wayne and Jackson, and you didn't get anything, contact us and we'll get everything together for you, or just go to our webpage. You can download it too.
As far as churches, we have had a pastor appreciation breakfast because that is one place that a lot of people go. There are a lot of people in Martinsville that do go to church, and we're trying to get the word out to the pastors in the different churches, and a lot of churches were represented at our breakfast to get the information to the pastors so that they can help us get information to the congregation, or at least they can begin to understand. And they are leaders in our community, so we have begun that process at least.
Yeah, Kevin, we'll make sure that we stop around for the businesses around the square.
Yeah, I think that would be
Yeah.
a good thing.
We talked about it. We just kind of ran out of time before
Sure.
the EPA.
I
But
think that would be, especially once you get and a lot of business owners live in the community.
sure.
And then I think it can snowball from there. And
Just have a
the
question.
businesses that are clean, that might be something they want to promote.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and just as long as they have free samples for us,
Right.
you work up
Gather
an appetite
around
with knocking on doors.
Los Tres and
We also talked about, in the future, kind of having some kind of raffle or some kind of for an event, and if any businesses are interested in kind of supporting the efforts,
sure.
Gift card, that kind of thing, that would be excellent too. But we'll make sure that we stop through.
Awesome.
Well, that brings up another question right there. A lot of you say business owners, but that doesn't mean that they own the building. It's same as we have a lot of
So the LLC
renting
group would be the
families
ones you want to get a hold of.
versus
Yeah.
landlords.
Yeah.
So there has been a little change with that. Before, when the EPA was here 3 years ago, is that right? 5 years.
5 to 6
Wow.
years ago.
Doesn't seem like it's been that long. They had to connect with the homeowners, not the tenants, and so that put up a lot of walls. But things have changed a little bit. Is that correct? Okay.
Well, yeah, the EPA on their access agreement forms, it indicates whether you are the owner or the tenant. So as a tenant, you can request it, and then the EPA will go to the landlord. Now, we went through that same issue with our Purdue testing and went to Purdue Legal, and their consensus was that under current Indiana landlord-tenant statutes, a tenant can allow permission to come in to do testing. And
But then it's up to the landlord to pay for the fix. No?
not if they're in
Not
Oh,
yeah.
the
Not if
EPA
you're in,
I'm sorry, I stand corrected. Right. The EPA is going to pay for the fix.
right. If on the EPA site, the EPA covers all the costs. There's no out-of-pocket cost. And again,
Awesome.
if you need a mitigation system, it's only going to be another value-added feature.
Right.
So there is a difference between EPA's data collection testing and what we do as a research project, because tenants are encouraged to contact EPA, and EPA will be reaching out to property owners to request for testing, and eventually EPA need owner's permission in order to do testing, but we do not. And as long as we get occupants permission, we can collect water sample, indoor air sample, and of course the exhale breath sample. So we do not have to go through property owners. That's a difference right there.
okay. Okay.
And there's the EPA form from Bryce.
Thank you.
A link to the EPA form.
And I
Very good.
also want to add a sentence on what Stephanie described about our workshop. And thank you, Stephanie. That was a very nice description. And we want to take this opportunity to make bi-directional communication. And we appreciate all the participating family, but by far we are doing survey and we are collecting samples. We are requesting a lot from these families. We want to use this workshop as a appreciation and also occasion to know more about these families. And the families will have this opportunity to let us know what you think and what you are concerned about and what you want us know about your thoughts. And all the information, the better we know you, the better researchers know the community. In the end, there is a better chance for us to turn the data into something useful.
Well, I was just sitting here thinking, I wonder how many communities across the country have a group of individuals like you people that, and some of you don't even live inside the community, but are willing to come down and put forth the effort and the work to track down not only the cause, but the cure, and that's a blessing that this community has. And you say research, the research that you're doing now, it could help speed along and maybe even prevent things in other communities across the country, across the world. You never know.
Right.
Well, that's one of the first conversations Saul and I had was specifically toward that there are so many communities in the same situation.
Mm-hmm.
In Indiana alone, there are 53 separate Superfund sites. Most people simply do not know what question to ask or where it came from or how to approach it. And one of the outcomes of the research we're doing is a template. How do you do this in any community? We'll be able to say, well, here's how we did it in
Here's
Martinsville.
how it worked here.
Here's how it worked here. Here's the mistakes we made. Here's we corrected. How it was the most direct way to do it. So by the time this is done, we should be able to have something to go out to any other place in town and in the state. And I believe that across the country, there are almost 1,800 Superfund sites. And that's not, and then being called a Superfund site is one thing, but even in Indiana alone, there's still another 981, I think, toxic sites listed.
Right.
So we're looking at well over 1,000 sites in Indiana that could be in the same situation.
And to your point, there's not a lot of communities that have this kind of
Right.
the support.
I wouldn't think
So
so.
like I say, it's a very unique situation in my experience, at least.
Wasn't Debbie one of the first over at Franklin, and some of the gals over there that really got the ball rolling over in Franklin
I think so.
for their situation?
Well, that was Carrie Reinhardt.
Okay. Yeah.
Carrie's daughter died from cancer.
Yes, Carrie. I'm sorry.
Uh-huh.
She was friends with Debbie. Right.
And she started What If It Was Your Child,
Right.
which is still ongoing, and they still have a lot of other issues. But that's really where it started. But when you look at the concentration of chemicals here, we actually exceeded the concentration of what they have in Franklin. So
Really?
That's scary.
yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
So we better move on to another project
Perfect.
if you're ready.
Yeah.
I guess. Which one should we jump into next?
Let's talk about the NIH.
NIH grant?
We're talking about how things could work here, and obviously things.
Nope, you have to get the microphone.
Obviously, we are making some very positive impacts. That's why we have more and more.
Just let go of it. There you go.
We have more and more people.
It was squeaking.
She's wanting to stand up like she's on Monday Music Hour.
I'm thinking
That shows
and
Monday
trying-
nights when we sing in here, and this is.
It was going great as you're holding on to it.
That sound. We are making some positive impacts here locally and also nationally. Because we have more people join us, and Bryce join us, and Kevin gave us more and more opportunities to let us on air, and we are the reason we are getting this big grant from NIH, National Institute of Health, to further look into the situation in Martinsville. It is we are on the track to use this as a good example to show how things could work and how we can make changes to make our living environment cleaner, and how citizens can take actions to make their living environment better. So Tom, maybe you can add some more?
So yeah, with us telling the community about the Showalter Project that involves testing children, a lot of people have said, well, what about adults? What about me? Maybe it's someone who doesn't even have children. So this is kind of that answer. So Tom, are you going to talk, or was it going to Bryce? I didn't know who was going to. Tom? All right.
Well, real quick on the next grant coming up, yes, that will be adults, and it would be essentially an extension of what the Showalter Project is, only on the adult version.
It's much larger.
It's much
as well.
larger too. And one little thing that's come up a couple of times here, and Kevin's mentioned, is how come it took so long to take care of these issues and everything. And one of the big approaches that our partnership is and why we were accepted into the NIH community-based participatory research, is that it is community-based. And it is the people that live in the town that make this happen. And nothing's going to happen about cleanup or taking actions until we do have like a community voice that's actually saying we need to find out what's going on here and take some action. And you just simply don't have that. And so when we have these workshops and task force, it's a method of getting the community's voice together so everyone understands just what is research. Because like Stephanie mentioned, so much of it can get very scientific, and you can get bogged down in equations and chemical compounds and everything that people just don't have a clue as what it's about. And it's not esoteric. It can be very simple and a lot of fun. But you have to develop a human voice to this. And so that was a big part of what we're doing. There's your voice that's coming to the table. This is how research works, and this is the product that's coming out that you can actually use for something.
Okay. You want to talk about what the grant is going, what the research is going to consist of, or the testing that's going to consist of?
Make sure to do this right. So this upcoming grant, we are not 100% sure yet until we get notice of award from National Institute of Health. But we got very positive words from program officer already saying we can guardedly positive, optimistic. So this upcoming grant has two components. One is research, one is action. So we actually talk about this at the eating place before we came here. So what actions we are going to do? And the simple answer is, as a researcher, I do not know, because I do not know what will work in this community. That's why getting to know community, getting community motivated to make your own voice is super important to this partnership. This is not the research project is not only led by researchers, it's co-led by researchers and community partners, task force members, individual community members. Coming back, talking about the research component of this upcoming grant, we are going to continually measure exposure by testing exhale breaths in adults. From this sense, is same as Tom said, is another version of Showalter grant. We are going to test exposure. However, we are going to do cancer study. We are really going to look into the cancer situation in Martinsville and compare Martinsville with other similar communities to see if cancer rate is higher in Martinsville and how much, and what are the cancer types. That lead to the second part, which is we are going to use questionnaire, collect self-report health conditions. And this is what researchers call hypothesis generating. And we have you exposure information, and we have what you report, your health conditions. We are going to see if we can identify any health conditions potentially related to people's exposure in this community. And then we are also going to measure adults' neurocognitive function to directly link exposure with neurocognitive function. Those are the research part. With all the data generated, how are we going to use that to contribute to cleaning up of this contamination? It will be up to the community. And researchers are going to form information session, focus group, workshops, and really gather information from community And we put thoughts together, we brainstorm together, see how this information can be used by the community to make changes. That is the big structure of what we envision for this big grant.
Okay. So if you are awarded this large NIH grant, when should people expect to start hearing more about it, hearing about signing up for it, things like that? Just to give them a ballpark. Is this spring, summer?
Springtime, because we have a lot of things we're doing already. So by the time it's announced and awarded, I'd be looking at springtime. And this is a minimum, I believe, of 5 years, this study is. And it could go on for as long as 7. So this isn't a short time affair that we're looking at ahead of us. So everyone's really dedicated to this for the next 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm getting a question. I'm going to interrupt. I'm sorry, from a buddy of mine in Indianapolis. And he's texting me. He's watching the show and he's like, "Where you at?" I'm like, "I'm here, Tom." But he asked us, and he's got family that lives down here. He asked, "Is this similar to this situation that's going on in Whiteland?" But I'm thinking he means Franklin, that area there.
Yes.
So kind of similar contamination.
Yeah, it's the same chemical.
Same chemical.
Exactly the same.
And I'm trying to answer that and stay engaged here. So
Go ahead, Bryce.
I was just thinking, I mean, hopefully there's going to be some good policy out of all this, so this kind of thing doesn't happen again. You know, Franklin, Martinsville, other places across the state where people are just doing their day-to-day, living their lives, and next thing you know, they find out that their kids are sick. And that's probably the worst thing that a parent could ever experience, I'm sure. I don't know, but and I remember talking to somebody in Franklin when about 2014, and my heart just kind of broke for him. Hopefully, hopefully his child's okay, and hopefully nobody else's child. The idea is that this we put a stop to this kind of thing, because policy choices made this situation happen, and policy choices can unmake these kinds of situations.
Right.
So,
but in order to complete this research, it takes our community. We need people to sign up for these projects, help us find these outcomes, and so that action can take place. Okay, so back to NIH real quick. As far as it'll be a lot of the same testing. It'll be an exhaled breath test, multiple, I'm assuming. It'll be some sort of probably iPad assessments. And then you said there would be a questionnaires to fill out regarding medical.
Health outcome, yeah, health conditions.
Health conditions, yeah. Oh.
Right. And when you said neurological behaviors of adults, what do you mean by that? Is that like depression, like anxiety? What does that mean exactly?
Probably it all. Probably
All
everything.
Very good question, Stephanie. So for adults, it's going to be a little bit different, because adults potentially are exposed a longer period of time, and we may able to see some health effects that could be caused by longer time of exposure, like people's short-term memory and color vision memory, and whether they have some color blindness. So those are the effects we know happen in walkers, and we want to see if we observe similar effects in adults in this community if they have been exposed for longer time, especially before this situation was found, and if people have been drinking contaminated water for a couple of years, or being exposed to vapor intrusion at higher level for years. So these effects are more likely to be identified among adults compared to children, especially looking at 6 to 11 years old children. They've been drinking treated water already, and the vapor intrusion situation, like in Hammenbecker in Twig, many families already installed vapor mitigation system already. So we anticipate to see more, if there is any, potentially more severe effects in adults.
Mike Owens has a question. How common is this around the United States? I'm vaguely aware of a contamination event that happened in Indianapolis from a clothes cleaner. And Tom kind of already hit on this with the Superfund sites and contamination sites around the country. Astronomical amount.
Well, I think there's 13 major ones around Indianapolis. And if you go to the EPA site and just search for Indianapolis Superfund sites, you can pull up a whole map, and you'll see some of them overlap each other. So go to the EPA site, look at Superfund sites, Indianapolis, and you'll get all the data there. You're going to be very surprised.
I'm surprised, even by our own community.
It's scary. Very scary.
I want to add something to echo what Bryce just said about the policy. In the end, it will be policy changes. That's the only approach to make things change, prevent this from happening again. And I am not a policy researcher, and I know very little about how to make data useful for policymakers. That's why we want more people on board, like people doing policy research, to people doing policy advocacy. We need our people, and we need local officials. We need the state, regional agencies, and we need local people. And I want to give mic to Kathy. And Kathy has been people like Kathy could help us a lot. And I would like to ask Kathy describe her contribution to our project. And Kathy, say something what you have been working on in this project.
I'm working with the children that's down here that's been exposed to some of this, and whether it be at school, playing outside with their friends, in the house when it's cold, that makes a difference. My personal thing is I'm a retired nurse, and everybody's like, oh, we don't drink the water here. We don't drink the water. Well, okay, the water's fixed now, but I'm like, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you could be in your home and watching TV and being exposed to all this stuff. So it's something that definitely needs to be taken care of. With Purdue down here doing the testing like they're doing, this is just, it's like a gift from God, seriously, because something needs to be done, and the grants have been, you can do this and do that. So yeah, we need anybody and everybody that can participate, because it's beneficial to you and your family, your friends, neighbors, for the whole town, for the whole county. So it is something very, very important right now. Since I work with the children, I think it's real important for the children ages 6 to 11 with the testing that we're doing right now. And then we'll have something down the line again. But right now, that's the one I'm involved in.
Generations to come will benefit from this if we, in fact, can do something, and some policies quite possibly changed if need to be.
Yeah.
I mean, the gist of all this is that the chemicals that you were speaking about have been proved to be cancer-causing chemicals, among other things. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes.
Have we pinpointed, or have they pinpointed specific types of cancer that have been caused by? I mean, if you want to shock people and wake them up, you shoot that out there. You know what I mean? I'm just lung cancer or brain cancer, or is there a certain type of cancer that is prevalent when you pinpoint the chemicals that we're discussing here?
I've met a lot of different people that's had a lot of different kinds of cancer.
Sure, no,
I mean,
both
like breast
mom and
cancer,
dad,
brain cancer.
Right, my mom and dad
pancreatic
both
cancer.
lived here and both died just different types of cancers.
Yeah.
But I'm talking about, I mean, someone was wise enough to build a cancer research facility here in Martinsville for some reason. 25 years ago.
They don't just
build that there's no other there's no other around the donut counties as far as I know.
Yeah.
So someone knew something.
Mm-hmm.
So is there a certain cancer that, or maybe there's a certain 2-3 types of cancer that we can say? And I know brain, lung, heart, whatever, but I mean scientifically that can be broken down into even a certain type of cancer that people are getting. Is there a name or a number we can put with that in this area?
Well, that's the one thing we're working on. like Saul mentioned, self-reporting. We want to get the data from individuals. If you've had cancer, your family has had cancer, anybody you know, what type of cancer, duration and time frame. And the cancer study, we have Dr. Mary Turek from the University of Chicago. She's pulling all the known cancer rates in the state. So we're going to be compiling that data for cancers that we have here, and then getting self-reporting, and then comparing and seeing if there's a prevalence of certain forms of cancer,
Sure.
like you're mentioning. Now, just them having talked to so many people in town and across the county for years, you keep hearing thyroid cancer here, particularly in younger, 20-year-olds and younger, brain cancers, GIST, cervical and uterine cancers are all the big ones that I keep hearing repeatedly. And Debbie Corcoran, you know, she has a list over the years, and there are certain ones that we do hear more than others. Non-Hodgkin's lymphoma comes up a lot, but can you prove causality? It came from this chemical directly? No, we can't.
Sure.
When you're looking at non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, so much of that has been you can trace back to Roundup, the use of Roundup, and there's massive lawsuits going on about that one right now that you hear every place. But will we ever be proved direct causality from this? Probably not, because there's too many comorbidities and everything added into it and background health factors. But the thing is, it takes so many straws to break the camel's back.
Right.
You know, once you start a cascade, you know, there's really no way you get back from it. So if we stop any cascade from happening, you're going to improve everyone's quality of life. So the more data, the more information we have, the more powerful you're going to be able to overcome anything.
And share with everybody else,
Right.
all the other towns and cities.
Thank you, Tom. And to Kevin's point, TCE, trichloroethylene, is a known cancer-causing chemical, and by multiple agencies. And the known cancer caused by TCE is kidney cancer. And for PCE, and very unfortunately, is not confirmed human cancer-causing chemical. It is because there are not enough human data, and it is called a prober human carcinogen. Means it's possible, more than possible, and based on animal data, is strong enough and sufficient enough, but there is just no human data. And there are things we know they exist, but just scientifically we have not been able to prove yet. And I think we observed so many different kinds of cancers in this very small community. Maybe different kinds of cancer share a mechanism more fundamentally. It's just that the number are so small, we cannot prove them yet. And we hope down the road, if we get the community really motivated and we can do using cutting edge technology such as molecular biology and molecular epidemiology study or epigenetic tools to work with smaller size of community to prove some causality, but that's a long shot down the road.
I was just going to add one thing that we didn't mention today that we do a lot of times is that the only testing on humans for PCE exposure has been for workers. So workers who go to work all day and are exposed to high levels of PCE contamination, which has shown neurological effects, right? But now those workers go home in the evening. They go home. They're home all weekend. Come back. They're able to recover somewhat. Then they go back to work. It's just that cycle. But there hasn't been any research done on long-term, low-level exposure on children or adults.
I'd be curious.
So
adults,
this is all brand new research, which is another reason that it's so important.
I'd be curious in adults. Thyroid issues in our community, because it seems to be a lot of that to me from what I hear.
Okay, so those are the information we want to collect in this NIH grant project. We are going to do questionnaire And if we observe proportionally, like in such small community, in 300 participants, if certain effects really have higher prevalence than in other community, then we want to look into those.
You guys want to put that in there? He's asking for. Can you put the comments? Put here in the comments the web page address for researching ours and other Superfund sites around. And that's just the EPA Superfund sites, Indiana.
See if I can find it.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try to find it.
Track that. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, Bryce.
Teresa's been asking some questions. I saw one where she was asking if I'm assuming she means to go back to the Showalter Project that we are speaking about first, if results from that research could help bring funding to the school. Going back to Tom.
She punted that one, didn't she?
Who's the community partner?
Right.
Co-investigator.
Well, I graduated in Martinsville High School in 1968. And I think I was probably the town geek at the time. And so I can relate to wanting to get more money for
You're
science
funny.
clubs. So when I look at this research, I kind of think, what did I want to have when I was a kid, or what would I like to have had when I was a kid? So when I look at outcomes from this, I'm always thinking about, well, what could I have done for myself 50 years ago? So yes, I think that we're going to look at how can we use this for more funding for schools, because like the one grant that we have coming in now from NIH to community-based participatory research, I'm going to use that specifically to see about trying to set up testing programs so we can use high school kids either in the science or environmental interests to help us do testing and come out into the fields, maybe help us with breath testing, let them see how the lab works and everything else. So that is a definite thing that's on the table for me.
Yeah, and I thought about that. Like if we do find out in the Showalter Project that children ages 6 to 11 are neurologically and behaviorally have issues from that, then if somebody has to listen to that, apparently at some point somebody's going to have to pay for that. Like if it causes, I don't know, but if it causes something that happens to our children, then maybe in our special ed department or anything like that could get funding for our schools. It just depends on what the outcome of the research project is, and that's why it's so important that we get kids to participate.
And then when you look at the number of special ed kids that we have in our school district anyway, and if you look at the historical rise going back 20 to 30 years, how many special ed kids did we have in the school, and how many do we have now, 5 years ago and today? And there's always a requisition now for special education teachers here. There's definitely an issue, I think, here. And one more quick thing just on that. We have kids in special ed here, and so you look at the special ed kids, and what are you going to do with them when they age out, when they graduate from high school? There's no provisions made for them. They're still going to be having the same neurological and behavioral issues, but once they get out of the school system here, there's no place for them to go. So we need to have some data here for more social services to start addressing these issues. For when we have 10 to 14% of the students in a high school that are in special ed programs, how are they going to be trained to become working, efficient adults within the community?
So, Stephanie, you want to talk about high school students are going to help us for the workshop, and also we need help from high school students for our exhale breath testing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, there's a teacher at our high school named Mrs. Carey, and she's environmental sciences there. She's amazing, by the way, because my daughter had her. And she does have a club that's coming. Unfortunately, I think they're first. She said something about they don't start till actually after we start with the exhale breath testing on the 15th. However, she is going to help us. She's going to volunteer one day so she can come in and see what it's like. And she's going to try to get some of her students that she knows is coming into her classroom. She's going to try to get some of those students to help us as well, although their official environmental science club hasn't helped hasn't exactly started just yet at the high school, but it is coming. And she said they're a group of children, and she's very excited about helping us, and she's very knowledgeable. And she doesn't live in our community, but obviously she works in our community, so she's excited to help us with our projects.
Yeah, exactly. I talked with Miss Carey several times, and we see down the road we can do some work together to get high school students in Martinsville involved in the research. And because this is research and also community engagement, we would love to have high school students involved in all the process, and the students can help us collecting data, can help us do the dissemination engagement. So those are all going to be very good experience for high school students.
Right.
And can be very helpful for our projects as well.
Exactly, because like we said, we need more help. So,
Question? Nothing? Come on. Nothing?
I've fired off like 9 so far, so I mean,
We're ready for another one. Anybody out there have any questions? Just
what are the side effects? Grumpy, middle-aged, balding, bitter, hungry, tired.
that's just you.
That was my horoscope.
right.
That was your
That's what I read my Chinese fortune
Tom's
cookie
horoscope
today, so
this
yeah.
morning. So
What's you guys start? When are you guys going to start walking the streets again, knocking on doors?
that hasn't been real productive for us.
No,
For
we
us.
are expert now.
I mean, for Bryce, maybe, but
we need to learn from Bryce.
yeah, we need, yeah.
What can I say? No, not to toot my own horn, but no, probably between like the 9th and the 16th. We haven't worked out the date yet. I'm working with Deb Cochran on that.
November?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you said, I just found out about the mobile van
Mhm.
that's coming. So
Where's Debbie at? She's not even coming in here now tonight, or is she just busy? Or
she's busy. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, but we'll put something together and figure out an efficient way, I guess, to get the message out again. But people are probably you're probably gonna be tired of seeing us, actually. So that's a good thing.
That's a good thing.
And just one quick note on Debbie. Debbie and Dr. Jennifer Johnson are the key players on the Robert Wood Johnson program. So maybe you can expect to have just the two of them here for a program of their own.
Well, I told her, they messaged me, and I get lots of messages from people to say, hey, we want to come on your show. And I give a yes, and then I move down the list, and then 3 days later, I don't know who I've said yes to and who have not. So Debbie and yes, they're probably going to kill me. So
Yes, probably.
and Debbie's very, very knowledgeable, and she has some personal.
she's been on a bunch.
Yeah. She's a crazy walking book of knowledge.
Yeah, so Debbie is an excellent example, like a community member really care about community and start working on this, never give up and dig in, and in the end start to generate impact. And allow me to add some more on what Kathy described her activity and how grateful I am for what she has been doing, because the process of this project is we get parents sign up to participate our study, but we actually have to go through informed consent process with them. We cannot just say, oh, you sign up, come to participate. We have to go through the consent form, let them sign the consent form. Obviously, we have several families sign up every week, and researchers from Purdue University cannot come here. So that's Dr. Neil Delap and Kathy has been doing. They, after work, drive around to go to families and really consent people at farmers market at their home. So all the almost 50 families fully consent participating are consent by Kathy and Neil. So that's a very important critical step of our research, and community partners, community members can be involved in every step of our research. Thank you, Kathy.
Well, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Do we want to talk about well testing at all? I mean, I know that's, or the cities, maybe the cities. the new regulations in place regarding water wells? You brought that up at the beginning, so
Right,
that's
we
why
kind of
I'm
hit
going.
on this a little bit already,
Yeah,
though.
that's why I'm going back to it.
Well, you might want to bring this up with Dr. Johnson and Debbie, because that's part of the Robert Wood Johnson project, and that's what's funding that. But that is doing the water well testing in town and doing some control testing outside of town. And then they also have a humanistic anthropological study going on there as well with environmental surveys, and they're doing interviews with people. So that's coming up.
Okay.
But if you do have any other questions about the city environmental ordinance, you should probably call the city and get it directly from them.
Okay.
Because it's not citywide, it's specific to individual plumes.
Oh, okay. All right. Anything else? Trying to remember.
Yeah, as Tom just said, Robert Wood Johnson project has 3 components. One is well testing, and one is social aspect and the human being part, anthropological research, and one is community engagement. And Debbie and Dr. Johnson and I are 3 co-project directors, and we each lead one component. Debbie leads the community engagement, and Dr. Johnson leads the anthropological research, and I lead the well water testing. And Tom actually is our senior community engagement partner, advisor. So we are a 4-people team, and we deserve another independent porch time showtime. Please put us on schedule.
That sounds like a demand more than a deserving.
Big.
I was going to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
Back to Tom.
Well, is it time to wrap this up?
It's getting. What time is it? I'm not.
Too late.
8:39. Yeah, it's. Is that right?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Is that right?
Mike,
Is it right? Because if it's right, I'm late getting Devin from basketball practice.
Oh, what time
Bye,
are you supposed
everybody.
to go get him?
8:30.
Oh no.
Run, Beth. Be careful.
I don't know if I brought anything on here.
Don't go fast.
Oops.
Okay.
Okay, well, just for something fun, that a future project that I would like to work on is a South Central Indiana Environmental Health Fair here in Martinsville. There's so many issues going around, not just in our community, but in our surrounding communities. I want to put together in the springtime an environmental health fair here.
Wow.
So if there's a community-based organization interested in that, anyone wants to get involved to help us on that, we'd like to start planning and getting that going as well.
Good deal.
And also for the NIH grant, and Tom's MISA, Martinsville, Indiana Superfund Site Association, as the partner with Purdue Research Group. And Tom and I have been talking about expand our partnership to get more people, local organizations involved into this 5-year grant. So we are actively seeking expanding our partnership.
Now we lost Beth, so I have to pick up the mantle and speak now. So, any other questions or comments from anybody watching or tuning in? Kenny normally has something to say, but it won't be relative to what we're doing here. But no. But once again, I thank you all for coming in. This is vital for our community. And I look at it this way. There has to be a need for people like you to get involved. And unfortunately, the need came to pass from the history of the city and things that went on prior to you guys even knowing about it, or a lot of us even moving in here or being born in here. And now you guys are trying to fix and cure major issues, contaminated soil and air and water. And that's just it's a pretty, like I said, we're blessed as far as this community goes. We're having people like y'all come in, at least 2 of you from out of town, and work to rectify what's going on, and also educate and research for future. But thank you guys for coming in, and I'll work on that 4-man show from that you requested. Dr. Johnson and Debbie are going to be mad at me anyway, because I'm pretty sure they messaged me and asked me, hey, when can we be on the show? And I have no clue what I told them. So that's all right. Wouldn't be the first mistake I made and won't be the last, but I'll talk my way out of that one with those gals so they don't yell at me. Right. And I'm sure we'll have you guys back on again. Maybe the first of the year after you get through some November and December's studies and things like that, and kind of set the stage for next year, what your plans are in spring and moving forward. I wish there was a way that we could get. I know we're a popular media source in town, and we have a lot of people on our site, probably more so than the other two combined. If you want to get down to brass tacks of it, we have direct access to over 10,000 people, but or actually more than that when you throw in the other pages. But not everybody's going to look at it. Not everybody's going to hear it. Not everybody's going to care. And I wish there was a way that you could hit them in the head with a pillow and say, hey, just help us out here. Give us A, B, and C, and then we'll move on to the next one. Because if the community would come together as one, let their houses get tested for air, test some of the people in their house, on down the line, you can be done with this in a year. You know what I mean? In the areas of the Superfund. At least we would know something. But I don't know. Maybe they'll catch on and learn it and want to help sooner or later. So anyway, anybody else got anything to say? Add? Tom?
Well, we do have an office in town, so generally I'm in there most days, and that's at 609 South Lincoln Street. It's known as the Senior Retreat. We're downstairs in the basement room.
Okay, so you're over at Susan's place.
We're at Susan's place.
Okay.
So we have an office there full time.
Okay. Good to go. I did not know that. And you've probably said it on here before, and it still just didn't register, but...
It takes multiple times, and it is a snowballing effects, and we get more and more people, and people like you, people at Stephanie, Bethany, and we are going to grow our team and grow the effects.
You could tell me something today, and I'm gonna forget it in here in 10 minutes anyway. But
I'll keep telling you.
That's age. Y'all, thank you so much for coming in tonight, and we will have you on again, like I said, soon. Get some more information, and hopefully, if you guys got any questions, get a hold of Bethany or Tom or Dr. Saw or myself or Stephanie. All very much willing to help, and hopefully we can get your questions answered, and you guys can help participate in the studies, and we can get a conclusion with this. Thank you guys for coming in. Thank you guys for tuning in, and thank you, Kenneth. Appreciate you guys tuning in and asking questions. What is today? Tomorrow night we will be downtown. Tomorrow's Thursday. We'll be running a test down at Tom Fillery's to see if we will be able to do our Star Search finals at his place. So we're going to tear this place apart and relocate it downtown for Thursday night. Friday night we're going to be covering the game live. Martinsville plays at East Central Friday night. Instead of driving there and going up in the press box and carrying the game the way we do, we're probably going to catch the feed from East Central and then just do our normal talk about it right here on air for you guys Friday night. So love you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will see you soon.